This started about a year ago. My 51-year-old daughter, 18, recently came into a lot of money, like never having to work again type money. My daughter's father passed away when she was 11 due to a faulty defibrillator he had installed that didn't work properly the night he passed away. We were contacted by an attorney from our area who had sued the manufacturer and already had 2 other families from our area on board. I decided to go ahead with the lawsuit. The lawsuit settled when my daughter was 16, and everything was put into an account she could access when she turned 18. She also inherited all of her father's money, assets, and property. What she ended up with is what most people dream of winning in a lottery. On top of all of that, her car was totaled by a careless driver, and she received $34,000 from the guilty party and their insurance. I cannot touch her money, not that I want to, as I have my own. My older brother has always been greedy and thinks if someone around him has money, then he must have some of it. His wife is just as bad. When it came out that my daughter had all of this money, my brother suddenly started calling me daily, trying to be nice, etc. I knew exactly what he was doing and just outright told him I can't give him any money. He demanded to know why. I told him the accounts were in my daughter's name, not mine, and were under her full control. My brother tried to manipulate me into getting money from my daughter to give him, and I said no. My brother has always felt the lifestyle differences between my daughter and his were unfair. I never married. My daughter and I lived with my parents. My dad passed some years back, and my daughter and I take care of my mother. My brother only comes around when he wants money. My brother is absolutely convinced my mom has a ton of money and is going to leave it to my daughter. Soon enough, my brother started trying to talk to my daughter. My daughter just ignored him. I told her she was in no way obligated to help her uncle and his family. These people have said horrible, cruel things about my child before when they didn't get their way. When my dad passed, my mom had roughly $6,000 left from his life insurance. My brother was sure mom was lying and hounded her for months. Then they switched it to saying mom had given all of the money to my daughter. I thought it was hilarious. My mom split what was left with all of her children, but my brother was greedy and swore there should be more. He got incredibly angry when my mom gave me my share, saying I should give it to him since I lived with our mom. My brother showed up unannounced to the house. I knew he was waiting to try and bully my daughter into giving him money. He tried again to get me to give him money, and I reiterated that I didn't have access to the money. My brother seemed appalled and said my daughter should be giving me money. I didn't tell him she would. My brother also tried to goad my mom into asking my daughter for money, and my mom told him no. My brother immediately went into asking when my daughter came home. He pretty much talked like she had no choice, stating he would pay her back, which we all know isn't true, how he needs a certain amount, blah blah. My daughter told my brother no, that she wasn't giving him any money. My brother got angry and told my daughter it wasn't fair, that his daughter had college to pay for and they needed the money. He said some incredibly cruel things, and my daughter told him to get out. He got even angrier when my daughter told him I might be the things you called me, but I'm a rich one of those things. Things went silent, which worried me even more, because I know how they are. We were on our way to an appointment one day when my phone rang, and I saw it was my brother, so I let it go to voicemail. He called again. I didn't answer until we were parked, and I listened to the voicemail. My brother said my daughter had called their home, pretending to be their daughter, and was saying my brother's daughter had been kidnapped, that she was in the woods and didn't know where she was. My brother called my daughter more cruel things. I asked my mom what she thought we should do, and my mom said she'd try to handle him. When my mom called him, my brother launched into how they just wanted an apology and that we could negotiate the money my daughter would give them because they planned on suing my daughter for emotional stress. My mom is old but not stupid. She asked if they had proof it was my daughter, like her number on their phone or a recording. My sister-in-law took the phone at that point and proceeded to launch a barrage of insults towards my mom and my daughter. My mom told her that nothing would happen without proof. I knew my daughter didn't do anything. My mom knew, and my daughter let me see her phone. The night this supposedly happened, my brother had called my daughter, but she didn't answer. My daughter has never done or been accused of anything like this in the past. My sister-in-law proceeded to call back to back. Screaming ensued. My daughter asked if my mom and I would be angry if she called the police. She said she didn't feel comfortable being accused of something so serious and would like law enforcement to settle it. I said no, I wouldn't be mad. My mom agreed. So the next time my sister-in-law called, my daughter picked up the phone, saying, "I hope to God you're right about someone calling, because the police are on their way." My sister-in-law went silent and then started screaming about how my daughter controls us. I knew then it was true nonsense. The police did get called. My brother and sister-in-law pointed the finger at my daughter. Phone records were obtained, and my daughter's innocence was proven. My brother tried to give a weak apology, but my child told him to kick rocks. Fast forward a few weeks. My daughter gets a call from the bank manager, who said my brother was in the bank trying to withdraw money from my daughter's account and my mom's. My brother even told the bank manager he was overseeing our mom's affairs, which isn't true. My daughter told the bank manager to hold my brother there. I went with her, and my brother was very irate when he saw us come in. He launched into how my daughter needed someone to control her money. I told him my daughter can handle her own finances just fine. The bank manager called the police, and my brother was given a court summons. When he went to court, he tried to tell the judge my daughter was mentally challenged and needed someone to handle her money. The judge told him that's not what he was there for, and even if it were true, my brother wouldn't be the one to do that. They tried to vilify my daughter, saying horrible things. My sister-in-law testified and said my daughter was a horrible person and had always made their daughter feel inferior, and that my child was obviously my mom's favorite. My sister-in-law said my daughter's dream was to go to the college she was in, and her scholarship didn't cover all 4 years. The judge told them that their daughter's education was their responsibility, not my daughter's. After all this was said and done, my brother still tried to get money. He demanded my daughter give him the $34,000 from the car accident for everything she'd put them through. I told my brother he deserved everything he'd gotten, and I would not apologize. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Let me get this straight. You know the kind of person your brother is, and instead of shielding your daughter from his bullying or nonsense, you just straight up told him that he should bother your daughter if he wants the money? What the heck? Comment 2. Not the asker. You all need to cut him and his wife out of your lives. What a toxic nightmare. Good on you, your mom and your daughter, for not giving in to his nonsense. He definitely deserves many horrible things for being such a dirtbag. Now, for the update. It's been 2 days since the court hearing, and honestly, things are still super awkward and tense around here. Nobody really knows what to say or do. I've been trying to keep things normal for my daughter, but it's hard when her uncle is such a piece of work. So the other day, he sends my daughter a text demanding she meet him for coffee to discuss some so-called family matters. Like, bro, you think she's gonna meet you after all this? Smart girl ignores him completely, focused on work, trying to get her life back to normal, you know? But then I get a call from my mother, and she's all upset about the situation. I mean, she's always been caught in the middle between me and my brother, but this time it's different. She tells me she feels like she doesn't know how to handle his behavior. I'm like, Mom, just stay out of it. We'll handle it. Don't worry about it. Next morning, I find this envelope slipped under my front door. Typical. Inside is a letter from my brother, threatening to take legal action again. Yeah, right. Good luck with that, dude. At work, I overheard some coworkers chatting about family drama and realized how common this stuff is, which is kind of sad, but also a bit of a relief. Makes me think we're not the only ones dealing with this kind of crap. Later that week, we had a family dinner for my parents' anniversary. Yeah, my mom thought it would be a good idea to bring everyone together. My brother and his wife show up, and guess what? The atmosphere is super uncomfortable. My daughter and I just exchanged looks like, here we go again. Then my brother starts making a scene, loudly proclaiming how the family is betraying him. I mean, come on. My daughter tries to ignore him, just focusing on her plate, but his voice is so loud, it's like you can't escape it. My mom tries to calm things down, saying it's a celebration, but he doesn't care. He accuses my daughter of being selfish for not sharing her fortune. Like, who even says that? I can't stay quiet anymore. I'm like, you need to stop and respect the occasion. He laughs mockingly and says he'll expose the family for what they really are. What does that even mean? His wife chimes in, supporting him, making everything worse. My daughter, she's had enough. She stands up, says she's done with the insults, and leaves the table. I get up to follow her outside, and she's visibly upset. And then we hear my brother yelling inside, just making everything worse. The next day, I decide to block his number. Enough is enough. A few hours later, I get a call from a family friend. This friend tells me that my brother's been spreading rumors about my daughter at a local bar. So, I decide to confront him. We arrange to meet at a coffee shop, hoping to end this toxicity once and for all. When I arrive, he's already there, looking all smug. He starts with the accusations, claiming I'm siding with my daughter against family. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to protect my kid. He laughs, saying he'll never stop fighting for what he believes is his. I stood up, told him we're cutting ties for good. He starts shouting, drawing attention from everyone around. I just walk out. My daughter is waiting in the car, looking anxious to hear what happened. I get in and tell her it's over with him. The next day, I get a letter from his lawyer, escalating things yet again. Like, is this ever going to end? Edit. 2 weeks after the confrontation, things have calmed down a bit. My daughter is focusing on her studies and taking a break from all the stress. However, my brother's attempts to harass us continue. We've received more letters, but we're ignoring them for now. My mom is still caught in the middle, trying to mediate. Am I the idiot for telling my dad I'm not his wife and refusing to be his maid? For some background, my parents got divorced 7 years ago, and my father has a girlfriend, but she doesn't live in the same country as we do. So it's basically me, my brother, and my father 2 weeks a month. The other day, I, a 15-year-old female, was in the car with my dad, a 49-year-old male, and he started complaining that my brother, a 14-year-old male, doesn't help him enough in the garden. I was like, okay. Then he started saying that I am pretty useless too. I mean, okay, fair enough. The only chores I do are keeping my room and bathroom clean and doing everything regarding those 2 rooms, emptying the dishwasher, setting the table, doing my laundry and folding it, making sure to leave no mess around the house, and cooking a small part of every meal like the salad. Then came the moment that really stuck with me. He said that I wasn't fulfilling my duty in the house. I asked what he meant by that. He answered the following thing: you should be in the kitchen, cooking for your men, meaning him and my brother, and keeping the house clean for us. Then what really bugged me was when he said, if I was your husband, you would, to which I answered, well, I am not your wife, so period. He didn't really like that comment and said that I was being disrespectful for talking back. Now that I think about it, I could do more around the house, and I probably shouldn't have talked back to my father, but it just seemed so unfair and weird that I just needed to cut the discussion short. So am I the jerk? P.S. No, my father is not a creep in an intimacy way at all. I know the wife comment may sound creepy. I have never had any problems with him regarding that matter, hopefully. To add common questions. 1. Why is my age different here from my other post? My last post about my aunt was my first post on Am I the Jerk? This post had been deleted on other subreddits such as Am I the Jerk? So when I posted here, I wasn't willing to risk my post being deleted for nothing again, so I changed my age from 15 to 18. Now that I read the rules of this subreddit, I know that I can display my real age, which is 15. Sorry for the confusion. 2. Note that I am only half of the time at my dad's and that my parents have shared custody of my brother and me. 3. For everyone asking, my mother is a wonderful parent and I could live with her if I wanted to, but I don't want to lose my relationship with my dad nor leave my brother alone. 4. For everyone wondering if it's a cultural thing or related to where I live, it's not. We live in France and have no culture or religion that enforces any gender roles. Thank you guys so much for all of your very sweet and helpful replies. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I dealt with this as a kid of divorced parents. My dad would call me the galley queen as a way to get the kitchen cleaned. He and my brother would sit on the couch and relax. I responded by making the chores fair. My brother could clean one night, and I could clean the other night. Or, if my brother's chore was to take out the trash, I would do the trash while he does the kitchen. It totally changed the way they looked at the chores, genders, and our roles in helping. I'm a middle-aged woman now, and still think this was the best way to handle it. You could probably do more around the house, so sit down with everyone and make a list. Divide and conquer. Comment 2. You should not be keeping the house clean on your own. Everyone should be responsible for their own private areas, bedrooms, bathrooms, and laundry, and share in taking care of the other common areas. Your brother needs to learn how to cook and clean up after himself, because that is what adults do. Please do not marry a lazy person who expects you to do all the cleaning. Now, for the update. I'm not sticking around for my dad's messed up idea of a happy family. The day after our big fight, my dad was acting super weird, like nice to the point where it felt like he was trying to suck up to us or something. I was giving him the side eye the whole time. He made breakfast, which he almost never does. He usually leaves that to my mom when she's around. The eggs were overcooked and the toast was burnt, but I wasn't complaining because I wasn't the one making it. My brother was just as confused as I was, but we both ate anyway. During breakfast, he went on this whole speech about how me and my brother are so talented and have so much potential. It was like he was reading it off a cue card or something. I just nodded along because I figured he was just trying to make up for calling me useless and all that. Later that day, he suggested we all go to the local fair. He said it would be a great family bonding experience. My brother and I exchanged glances, but we both agreed. We figured it couldn't hurt to try and lighten the mood. At the fair, he was all smiles, trying to get us to play games and ride rides. It was a little too much, but I guess I appreciated the effort. In line for one of the rides, I overheard him talking to a friend about keeping the house in order and setting expectations. I tried not to let it get to me, but it was a lot to process. A few days after the fair, we were having dinner, and he brought up chores again. This time, he had a whole chart showing daily responsibilities for everyone, like cooking and cleaning were on there too. I looked at him like he had 3 heads. I said, "I thought we were supposed to be doing this together." He snapped back, saying I should set an example as the older sibling. My brother didn't say a word during this whole thing, which just added to my irritation. I confronted him later and asked why he was being so quiet. He just shrugged and said it wasn't a big deal. The following weekend, we went to a birthday party for a family friend. My dad was there, bragging about how well we were doing at home. Some neighbor even asked if I was helping out more, and my dad practically glowed. I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. After the party, I confronted him about it. I asked him why he had to make me feel uncomfortable like that. He just smiled and said he was proud of the family. I wanted to throw up. Things got worse when he suggested I take on more household responsibilities to prepare for the real world. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" So I started quietly collecting his old tools and equipment from the garage. One evening, I set everything up in the yard, making a huge mess. He came outside, furious, asking what the hell was going on. I calmly told him that if he wanted me to take on household tasks, he should start doing it with his tools too. This set off a whole argument about respect and responsibility. I told him he wasn't living up to his own expectations. In his fit of frustration, he threatened to take my phone and privileges away if I didn't start pulling my weight. Oh, it was on. I decided to escalate things even further. I gathered all the gardening tools and left them on the front porch. He saw this and went off, asking why I was making such a scene. I told him it was a visual reminder of what he expected from me and my brother. The next day, he tried to bring things back to normal by planning another family outing. We ended up getting into another argument, and he called me ungrateful and disrespectful. I wasn't about to back down this time. I told him I'd be staying with my mom for a while. His face turned red with anger. But I was done. I packed my bags that night and left. No more dealing with his toxic dynamics. Edit. My mom and I have been talking through our issues. My dad is still upset, but he understands my decision to leave. Am I the idiot for threatening to postpone my wedding because my fiancé sides with his overbearing mother? I, 26-year-old female, have been with my fiancé, 27-year-old male, who we'll call Mark, for 6 years. Those 6 years have been great. We've had fights and issues, but never something big that gave me a red flag. He's a great man to me, and he always treated me so well. Now here comes the issue. Mark has left the wedding planning to me since he knows I love this type of stuff, and I've always had a vision for what my wedding is going to look like. My soon-to-be mother-in-law has very loud opinions on a lot of things that I want for my wedding. When we went to the store to try on dresses, it was me, my sister, my mother, and my mother-in-law. I knew I wanted a fitted, off-the-shoulder wedding dress, and there were so many gorgeous ones that were my exact type. When I tried them on, everyone loved them, except my mother-in-law. She was very loud about her opinion, and even went as far as to say I look like a stripper. Her comment started a big fight between my family and her. My sister especially was upset, and I admit said some pretty nasty things to my mother-in-law. This resulted in her crying to my fiancé. That day, my fiancé and I fought, and he said that my family was in the wrong for upsetting his mother over a silly comment. I eventually gave in and got a dress that made everyone happy, which was a ball gown type of dress. I come from a family of florists, so my family was covering all of that. My mom owns her own flower shop, and she's the most popular in our town. I love, love, love flowers. I always have since I was a child. This is something I'm not willing to give up. For my wedding, I've always wanted a wildflower theme. I chose an outdoor venue and had a plan to decorate the place with my choice of flowers. I don't know why, but my mother-in-law was so against the idea of the flowers I chose. When she saw the bouquet and the flowers I chose, she yelled at me that this was tacky and that the people she invited to my wedding were going to think that her son is marrying someone cheap. She told me that red roses would look so much better and romantic. I refused, and she went to Mark about it. Mark and I ended up getting into a fight because this was something I absolutely refused to give up. He told me it was just a small thing I had to give up, and that after this was all over, we'd be happy with our new life. Even after the argument, I was adamant about my decision and wasn't backing down, which resulted in him leaving the house and going to his mother's. This has been going on for 3 days, and he still hasn't texted me or called me back. Almost forgot, I'm new to Reddit and I got my post taken down, so someone suggested I come here for advice. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, huge, not the jerk. Your fiancé is a big jerk here though. You're his soon-to-be wife. He should be defending you and protecting your happiness, not running away to his mother. I say this from personal experience. I nearly could have written your post myself. Either cut your losses now or get into couples therapy as soon as possible before continuing anything else. This doesn't end when you get married. If you're planning on having kids, your mother-in-law will be there to give her opinion. Even if you don't have kids, she will not back down about her opinion. Your fiancé needs to get a shiny new spine, see the light, and not let his mother treat you this way. This is your wedding, and you should be able to enjoy this experience and have everything that you both want. Comment 2. Not the jerk. You don't have a mother-in-law problem, though. You have a fiancé problem. Think of this conflict as a warning. This is what your married life will be like. Any conflict, even one where your mother-in-law calls you a stripper, will end with your future husband taking her side, not yours. He will always be on her side. Now imagine if you make a home together. It will be decorated like she wants. And if you have children together, I think you already know. You've spent 6 years together, and he now feels comfortable showing what he's really like. Run away before you're stuck. Now for the update. I knew things were bad, but I had no idea how much worse they could get. A week had passed since the argument over the flowers and the dress, and somehow Mark had managed to not contact me this whole time. I was still mad about everything, but I refused to let the wedding planning fall apart. So I decided to focus on my wedding plans, regardless of the mess that was my relationship. I visited my parents' house to discuss wedding details, and my mom had prepared a nice dinner. But during dinner, she noticed how stressed I was and asked about Mark. I mentioned the conflict we had and how he was still staying with his mother. I could tell my mom didn't approve, and honestly, I needed her support right now. She offered to help me with the wedding planning and suggested a small gathering with just the immediate family. I thought that was a good idea, so I invited my parents over for a casual dinner to brainstorm ideas. I wanted to make it special since we were in the middle of planning a wedding, so on the day of the dinner, I prepared a spread of food. Just as my parents were arriving, I heard a knock on the door. To my surprise, it was Mark. I was shocked, but let him in, trying to keep the atmosphere light. He immediately started discussing wedding details with my parents. It was like nothing had even happened. He mentioned he wanted to compromise on flowers, suggesting an arrangement with both red roses and wildflowers. I was surprised by how he thought that was okay. As dinner continued, Mark's mother called him and he stepped outside to take the call. I couldn't help but overhear part of the conversation, and it was like a punch to the gut. I heard my mother-in-law criticizing my wedding ideas, and the worst part was that Mark didn't defend me at all. Instead, he actually laughed at her comments. When he returned, I was fuming. I confronted him about not standing up for me, and he brushed off my concerns again, saying it's all about keeping the peace. I talked to my parents after he left, explaining my frustration, and they suggested a bridal brunch with family to show my vision. I thought it was a good idea, so I set a date for the brunch and invited Mark's family. I planned a wildflower arrangement for the centerpieces to showcase my theme. I was excited but also nervous about how Mark's mother would react. She initially agreed to attend, but expressed her dislike for wildflowers. On the day of the brunch, I was determined to make it a success. Mark arrived with his mother, who immediately frowned at the decorations. The brunch started off awkwardly, with tension in the air. I finally spoke up about my vision and why wildflowers meant so much to me. To my surprise, Mark's mother began to complain loudly. I stood my ground, explaining the importance of my family's florist background. Mark tried to intervene, but ended up agreeing with his mother. That's when I foolishly announced that if they couldn't support my vision, I would consider postponing the wedding. The room fell silent, and Mark looked shocked at my boldness. After a tense moment, Mark's mother stormed out, taking Mark with her. I felt a mix of relief and dread as they left. I knew I had crossed a line, but I was done letting my mother-in-law walk all over me. A few days later, Mark eventually reached out, apologizing for his mother's behavior. He agreed to meet and discuss the future of our relationship. I didn't know what that meant, but I was about to find out. Mini update. When we met, Mark told me he couldn't marry someone who would threaten to postpone the wedding. He thought it was an overreaction, and I realized he would always choose his mother. I ended the engagement right there. It was hard, but I've never felt more relieved. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.